What's up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to be talking about something a little different than usual, and I got a special guest in the building with me that's going to help me talk about it. My guy, Devontae from Alternative Factuals.
You already know a player named Gus is in the building, y'all.
Like, this is another version, almost kind of like a Midnight Storm occasion, and how appropriate, because we are going to be talking about the difference between Black Lightning in the comics and Black Lightning on the CW. And we're going to be talking about all that and more right now. But first, we got to hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click.
And we are back. Real quick, for those who don't know, I feel like every time that you talk about this character, because I feel like we shouldn't have to introduce this character, Devontae, but I feel like we're just gonna have to do it anyway, because I know that there is someone out there somewhere in the wide world who does not know that Black Lightning made his first DC Comics debut in Black Lightning #1 back in April 1977, and he has had a lot of changes since he first debuted. I guess the popularity of the TV show just really kind of helped put him in the public eye a lot better than what people were used to. So I think people know him now, but do they really know Black Lightning?
They don't really know how much of a beast Jefferson Pierce Black Lightning is. They don't understand. And a lot of people don't even really know, like, when they're trying to find out, like, okay, how do I find out more about his character? Don't get me wrong, he's had a couple, individual solo runs. He had his original Year One, he had his Cold Dead Hands, and I believe he had the run where, his belt was giving him his powers.
Yeah, that was the triple OG run.
That's the OG run.
That's a 77 joint.
So a lot of people don't know, most of his feats were in, like, Batman and the Outsiders, for example. Like, a lot of where his powers are shown is throughout, like, the multiple iterations of Batman and his group of people, and even showed how powerful his, Black Lightning is, I guess, kind of pun intended. It showed how powerful it really was when he was going against Brion, and that was volume 2. So y'all don't understand, like, the stuff y'all see on the CW, you're not even dipping a toe in. You're not even dipping a toe in.
No, I mean, that's light work. Guess let's go ahead and address the one thing. We kind of talked about this off mic, but I guess this is the easiest one to get out of the way first. Is Black Lightning, the Jefferson Pierce that we see in the comics, is he different from the Jefferson Pierce we see on the CW show? And I would say my vote is no. He's mostly the same guy. From attitude, perspective, his demeanor and everything, I think is about roughly the same. He's a little overprotective of his children, but who isn't? Overall, I think he's about the same guy. What do you think?
I would agree. Even like I said, you read back all the way in the comics, even way back in like 1977, you see his personality was always the same. He was always very much proactive when it came to his community. He always was pushing to make sure, the kids in his school were safe. In the show it was Garfield, but in the comics he went to, what was it, Suicide Slums?
Yeah, they were called the Suicide Slums. I don't think they wanted to use that for the CW.
Yeah, because they wasn't going to do it. It was like, guys, let's have a corporate meeting. We need to work on this name. So we're going to change it to Garfield. And yeah, but for the most part, his personality was the same.
Theoretically, it's a suburb of Metropolis too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, it is.
Like, not a suburb, but like an annex of Metropolis, I guess, for lack of a better way to
Definitely
put it.
is, because in the Year Ones, Black Lightning met Superman.
Uncharacteristic of what superheroes normally do when they meet each other. What's different from the Black Lightning 77 run is that they didn't fight each other in the Year One run. They just kind of like, oh, hey, well, I guess we're cool now. Okay.
I see we kind of, we're doing the same thing here. So let's not, fight each other. There's no need for that. But, because I know a couple years after that, what was it, December 1979? That's when he showed up in JLA Black Lightning.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And they wrote, I remember that cover actually. Hold on, I think I got it on my wall. They wrote it. He was like, hey, Black Lightning, I want you to be a part of the team. He was like, don't shake my hand, jive turkey, something like that. They wrote him like a typical Black person on a comic back in those times.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, as I say that because they used to do that with Luke Cage and Jon Stewart was also kind of in the same boat. This is what happens when black people aren't writing black characters in the 70s, 80s, and I would even say 90s, and maybe even now.
So basically, nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed, no. But yeah, the one thing I think the Black Lightning does, and maybe this is because we've had 20, 30, 40, 50, well actually not 50, but we've had over 40 years of history for Black Lightning by this point that he isn't as protective of his children as he is on the show at this point, because at this point in the show they are still only just now kind of growing into their powers. Maybe Jennifer more so than Anissa, but it's just one of those things that, like, by the time you get to the comics, yeah, is he protective of them? Yes, but he's not like the overbearing father that he is on the CW, which is understandable and for his perspective, but it's one of those things that we've seen it so much in The Flash and Arrow, maybe even Supergirl to a lesser extent, that by this point it's kind of like kind of over it.
Like I said, he did do that in the comics when it came, I think specifically, like you said, more towards Jennifer, because she was the youngest of the two. Anissa, she went out and did her own thing. Black Lightning eventually got over it. I think they literally had a conversation about it for a total of maybe 2 issues, and that's me being nice about it. But when it was Jennifer, mostly because her power was relatively unstable for the most part, throughout her history. Same power set basically, but she didn't have nearly as much control. So that was the reason why he was overprotective of her. But eventually he kind of let that go. And I think at one point they threw hands because she was in a disagreement with Black Lightning.
Yeah, I remember that. It's so weird to me because when you think about his children, and we'll get into the power sets here in just a second, but when you get to his children, you have Anissa, who has a power set that's really nothing like his. Yeah, her power set is completely opposite. I don't want to say opposite, but it's just not like his power set. And you get to Jennifer, and it's like, oh yeah, she's basically baby Black Lightning.
So Anissa's powers is not opposite; it's adjacent.
It's more like adjacent. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's so weird when you think about like, oh well, this is a thing,
right?
But no, you get into the power sets though. When you look at Black Lightning, his whole deal, and in the very beginning, he used to have to use a belt to get his powers. But I think, what was it, after Crisis on Infinite Earths, because of the whole retcon and everything, to a lot of characters, he was retconned into being a metahuman. So he no longer needed a belt to use his powers. Now, what they would do is they would say he needed the belt to help control his powers and like better direct them. They kind of do that on the TV show to a degree. They say, oh, when you use the suit to contain and control your powers, and I guess by the time you get to season 3, he has a entirely different suit. He kind of seems to not really need the whole control mechanics anymore. But
now I was thinking, I think for the show specifically, I know when it came to the powers, I think their reasoning for it was and this applies both to Jefferson and his daughter Jennifer, was because their powers are energy based. The reason why it was so dangerous for them to even like expel too much power out of their body was because they can basically, for lack of a better term, crash their nervous system, because obviously we run off of electrical impulses. One of the reasons why he's so dangerous is because, like I said, if he overloads himself, then he can accidentally put himself into a coma or something like that. At least that's their excuse for both of the characters.
Kind of talking about the whole like control system. If a person who only was aware of the Black Lightning TV show went and read the Black Lightning comics, you would be confused because Black Lightning is so different in his power set. They both control electricity, but like the comic book version of Black Lightning can do so much more with it. Jefferson, he has the ability, of course, he can manipulate and control electricity. He can shoot electricity. He can create those shields like he does on the show. I think, what was it, maybe towards the end or middle or end of season 1, he did finally figure out how to fly using his powers. But it was one of those situations where I kind of felt like, wow, like he's doing the least.
Absolute least. And when you think about it like this, like Black Lightning is not, this is how crazy he is. he was manipulating the electromagnetic spectrum. Think of it like this, like, remember, I put this in a video that just dropped, by the way, Alternative Factuals on YouTube, be sure to check that out. Literally, that includes like ionizing radiation that he can convert into energy. That includes, you know, visible and non-visible light, like that includes gamma radiation, like on the spectrum of, you know, electromagnetic spectrum. He can convert that into energy. That's what made him so deadly. And even as he got older, this was definitely explored on a couple instances where, you know, even the older he got, he actually got more powerful. Like, there were people legitimately scared of him on the Justice League. People like, oh, you know, Superman can take out Black Lightning. That's not true. Superman admitted that, no, if he had intent to kill, he would be done for. He can smoke pretty much most of the people, you know, he's on the team with, just due to the nature of his powers. So it's huge difference in powers between the show and the comics.
And here's another thing I think people forget about, the fact that, like, okay, he's not a speedster, but he actually can move at the speed of light. He actually has super speed. He may not be as fast as the Flash, but I mean, he can move pretty goddamn fast. Not only can he do that, but he can also, you know, we talked about his ability to manipulate the electromagnetic field. This guy has also been known to heal people using his electricity, using it to stimulate their molecules. And I think they even say he would even use this ability to jumpstart Superman's heart.
I was just about to say that.
So basically, Jefferson giveth and he taketh away.
So what do you say? He's the beginning and what? The end. All right now, church, everyone can have a seat in the pews now.
Now, here's another thing I think is very interesting here is that one of his power sets that you don't see on the show is, or maybe we will see it on the show, who knows? The season 3 is still kind of early in, but one of his power sets is he can, just like how Jennifer on the show is able to turn into like pure energy, or at least something close to it, he can do the same thing. A lot of people, I mean, I know, you know, we'll probably get some jokes about, you know, Amazing Spider-Man 2, but Electro is so much more like Black Lightning than he is Electro. Black Lightning has the ability to turn into a pure energy form, and he can travel through electric lines and all sorts of stuff. Matter of fact, when he is in his electrical form, the dude doesn't have to eat, he doesn't have to sleep. He is essentially, for all intents and purposes, immortal. Like, nothing can hurt him. And there's no limit to how long he can be in that form. If he really wanted to, he could stay in that form for the rest of his life and he would never die.
In the words of Mercy in Overwatch, my servants never die. Come on now.
All right. One thing I do kind of want to touch on, this is something I kind of am surprised the show has not addressed, and that is the fact that Black Lightning does in fact have Black Lightning.
I think they want to save that. Man, it was a beautiful panel when they showed that fight versus him and Brion. Man, let me tell you, that was one of the best panels I've ever seen in, you know, the Outsiders, period. When it was just going straight hands, and then, like I said, Brion thought he had him, but like, he won technicality, but you know, I don't want to get into those details. Anyways, but Black Lightning leveled a city from a single strike of his Black Lightning, and he was like, nah, I can't do that again. Are you serious? Leveling cities casually? Just like, no.
When you realize that Superman literally has to struggle every day to not break the ground underneath him as he walks on it, you're like, oh wow, Jefferson's kind of going through something kind of similar. Because basically what it is, for people who aren't familiar, the Black Lightning that he uses is not really normal electricity. It's this kind of mystical energy that he can wield. Now, there's a reason why you don't see him use it very often, you know, outside of the fact that it's dangerous, but also the fact that it gets into some really weird supernatural territories that I feel like if you introduce that on the show, it could drag the show in a direction maybe the showrunners don't want it to go. Though, I mean, they did bring in, what was it, Looker, who is essentially a vampire. You know, so I mean, you never know. Another thing is, and I think maybe they kind of tinkered with this, is that Black Lightning, the angrier he gets, the more intense his powers can get. And I think they've kind of hinted at that, but they've never really fully leaned into it. So that's another kind of key difference to me. What other kind of powers does he have that we haven't touched on yet?
I mean, for the most part, in terms of like his heavy duty powers, I mean, it's they you know, that's pretty much about the grunt of it. But you know, he has minor feats, which, you know, in superhero standards wouldn't be super deep. He actually is a genius level intellect. He's not necessarily like Lex Luthor, Batman kind of thing, or even Mr. Terrific level, but he still is on the scale of genius, which means he's still able to be, you know, considered one of the most, you know, masterful of tacticians when when it comes to formulating plans based on people's power sets, based on his own abilities. You know, he's very good at that. Remember, he won the Olympics, so he himself is in prime physical shape. So he's one of those people where, like, if you gonna fight him, and let's say, for example, he doesn't want to, you know, use his powers, and he's gonna give you in them hands, you're gonna be fighting for a while, because his stamina definitely is better than yours. Even Batman has admitted, like, yo, this dude is an absolute problem. I am glad you're a hero, because if you was a villain, I wouldn't know what to do with you.
There's a reason why every time Batman puts the Outsiders together, there's a reason why Black Lightning is one of the first people he reaches out to. There's a reason. Black Lightning is that guy. I mean, straight up and down.
Who are you telling me? That's the scariest teacher I've ever seen in my life.
I think people seriously underestimate exactly how incredibly powerful this guy is. And if you only knew the CW show, I would forgive you for not understanding exactly how powerful. So I was like, oh, poor honey, come on, sit down. I think those are pretty much some of the key things. I mean, if nothing else, I can definitely recommend that if you want to know this and more about Black Lightning, I actually highly advise you go follow my guy, Devontae, Alternative Factuals on YouTube. What other stuff? Because you don't do just Black Lightning. Tell the people what else you got going on over there.
Even though Black Lightning is one of my more extensive playlists, I cover shows that are, a lot of them are black, black characters, black cast, but I do a little bit of everything. So Cloak and Dagger, I did Luke Cage when it was out. I cover a little bit of The Flash here and there. So it really depends, leave your comments and suggestions and I'll look into it, do my research. And I mostly focus a little bit more on the shows. And a lot of people have issues understanding concepts related to the comics and the shows. So I'm more of that middle guy. I help bring these concepts together for you.
There you go, the bridge, if you will.
Yes, indeed, indubitably. And you can catch me on Twitter, afactuals1798. I do answer from time to time. I'm not on Twitter heavy. Primarily Instagram, YouTube is the best way to get in contact with me, comments and all that stuff. And all that juicy deliciousness.
And of course, you know who I am. I am, of course, Ernie the Blerd Without Fear. And I appreciate y'all for sitting back and kicking with me and Devontae while we wax on about this whole Black Lightning versus CW Black Lightning debacle. But anyways, let me know what differences between the TV show and the comic you have noticed that we didn't bring up. Sound off in the comments.
So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. And tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in $1, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus Ultra!